Hello, Michael Puente.
Hello, Karen Kring. How are you?
Glad to see you.
Glad to see you.
We're back after a hiatus, and Michael's my first guest. He works at WBEZ, Chicago Public Media, and he's been since 2006. Michael currently covers news and issues primarily in Northwest Indiana, Chicago Southeast Side, and the South Suburbs. He's also a host of Off Mic with Michael Puente in cooperation with WBEZ and Lakeshore Public Radio. You're also got a gig going with WTTW. I've noticed you on Latino Voices.
That's right.
Yeah. So how'd you get that gig?
It just fell on my lap, actually. TTW contacted WBEZ. They had their original host left the show or left the station. And so they wanted to fill it in with some rotating hosts. So they contacted BEZ and see if I was available. And, a couple of other people, me and my colleague Araceli Gomez Aldana are doing it. I got to do it in late March, and I'm doing it again on May 7th.
Cool. Okay. So you're going to stay in rotation. That's cool to hear.
For right now, I guess.
Yeah. Also, congratulations on being recognized with a Turkle Award. That's news.
Yeah, that came as a surprise. I got word of it now almost, I want to say it was about 2 weeks ago.
Something like that, yeah.
A week ago or 2 weeks, a week ago with when the George Floyd, Derek Chauvin case came down. I think it was a Tuesday last week where, it's kind of funny because I was covering the city's reaction downtown Chicago, and I was at Daily Plaza, and honestly, there wasn't much going on. There wasn't a lot of people gathered. So my editors had been, we have a thing called Slack that we ping each other on, say, go here, go there. And my phone started blowing up and I'm like, where do they want me to go now? So I'm looking at my phone. It was all, congratulations. I'm like, whoa, what's going on?
So you didn't get a call ahead of time. It was just announced. And
well, I got some indication that something was coming out, but I kind of forgot when it was happening. It was actually, maybe a week before. So
okay. Okay. So you were told, but you didn't know when the news was going to break because all of a sudden then it was like a tidal wave.
Exactly.
So
I didn't know if it was going to happen like that. I thought it was just going to be a press release, but I guess this big online announcement. So that was kind of cool.
Cool. That's neat. You've won numerous awards for your work. What does this win mean to you?
Well, it means a lot because, first of all, it's named after a great man, Stutz Terkel. That name is golden in Chicago and a lot of places. Author, journalist, filmmaker. He didn't limit himself. So many other people, so many great journalists in Chicago have won the award over the past years. I took a look at the list and just like, oh my God, just some of the company that, I guess I'm in now. And at the same time, it's something that I didn't apply for. It wasn't for a particular story that I did. It was pretty much a body of work. And quite frankly, I always thought I was somewhat ineligible for it because some of my work is so much out of the city of Chicago. At least, actually, it's only about maybe my Indiana coverage is really between 25 and maybe 40% of my work. I do cover a lot of Chicago stories, but I've become so associated with Indiana because of the bureau being down there. I've been assigned, and but every day it's like, well, let's get Mike on this Chicago story or that Indiana story. So sometimes it's like half and half. But because of that, I thought, well, maybe I was too Indiana for them to get the award. So
it's the region. You're in the region.
It's nice that, to be recognized by people that who are thinking about my work, because oftentimes I think you do the story and you don't get a lot of feedback a lot of times. And maybe through social media a little bit, but sometimes it goes in one ear out the other and you're thinking, well, Are the stories having any kind of impact? Is this mic on? You know,
Did
anybody hear it?
anybody hear this?
No.
Right.
So and apparently people have been listening. So it's
Fantastic.
really an honor to get something like that.
Cool. Well, again, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Let's start toward the beginning a little bit. When did you decide being a journalist was the life for you?
When I realized I had no other talents to do anything else. Oh, I don't know. Truth be told, I've always been a kid that has, woke up and I wanted to be the first to tell my family something big happened. I will always kind of like that. Then I have a cousin of mine who worked in Chicago for a long time, Teresa Gutierrez, who was with Channel 7 for a long time. So she was sort of the star of our family all the time. So that had always gotten me wanting to go into journalism. I did have a inclination of maybe becoming an actor, but that wasn't really what I really wanted to do. Journalism was something I just kind of gravitated to, both because I like writing and I wanted to do good in the world. I wanted to uncover things.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you saw the service to your community in it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up in an area that has a high concentration of people of color, Hispanics, African Americans, and public corruption.
Yeah.
You felt like, if I got in there, maybe I could uncover some stuff. Maybe I could do some good work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's exactly how it happened.
And evidently you are. So yay. Hey, so civilians can better understand how you work. How do you decide what to cover, and what is the process like from idea to finished piece?
Well, there's no it's sometimes it has no rhyme or reason. It seems like every day we have a meeting. I'll get a email or a Slack message from my editor. Editors are always changing as to what they want me to cover for the day, what we're working on. And we don't cover Indiana like a blanket. We're not a newspaper. It's really stories that, if it is an Indiana-based story, well, a lot of the stories actually, we have a much larger newsroom than when I first started at BEZ. It's crazy how it's just grown by leaps and bounds, but we still can't match that of, say, like a Chicago Tribune, which still has a number of writers, a number of freelance writers that they get in all the time. They're there at a lot of the meetings that we can't get to, not just city council meetings, but like committee meetings, and they're in the communities, the Sun-Times, the newspapers. It will always be hard for a radio station or a TV station to match that. And I grew up in print, so I know some of the meetings that newspaper reporters cover, a lot of boring meetings that are not sexy, that are not that aren't on the TV until something big happens. I mean, I used to cover the Northwest burbs for the Daily Herald, and when I got up there, I was like, there's a mosquito abatement board. There's all these different type of taxing bodies, and so you may not even think about them until when, well, they want to pass a referendum for what? They need. So when it starts to affect your bottom line, there's a lot of layers of government that people either are unaware of, or maybe the government body wants it that way, to keep the kind of public, out of the loop, and we want to spend the money. So that means more property taxes. As newspapers start to decline, and it's unfortunate that's happening, someone's going to have to take up the slack. Whether it's citizen journalists, whether, that's, or blogger, I don't know who, but that's very important that we get somebody to be at these meetings, whether it's Zoom or in person, too. There's always going to be little things that may seem little, maybe not get the headlines, but are very important to cover. So every day they're looking at the newspapers, going through the web, seeing what's on social media to assign me or do a bigger story on. Sometimes we get to everything we want to, sometimes we don't.
Mm-hmm. There's a relationship that is built between readers and journalists. What do you think holding up your end of the relationship means? And what do you feel you owe to your listenership?
I think what separates, really good journalists, I think it's just trust. I think it's just a certain level. It's almost like you go to your favorite restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you're going to get there. You know what to expect. You're either going to get good service or you're not, or you're not going to go back there. There could be the new flash in the pan restaurant that's opening right next to you. It's like, oh, they got this, and that. They go, yeah, but Mike over here is kind of a trusted guy. We know him, and trust. It's really trust.
Mike is gonna steer us straight.
Right, or try to get the truth there, or try to get closer to the truth as best as I can. And there's no shortcuts for that. You have to be sort of in the fight all the time. And sometimes I failed, sometimes I've done good. But it's just it just continuing every day to try to uncover something else. And I don't get to everything. That's really one of the big things that going from print to radio is trying to limit myself in that I'll see a story that another publication might get or another outlet and think, God, I knew about that, I couldn't get to it, why didn't I know about it?
Right.
And really it's kind of funny, and I don't want to disparage my own work, but at the same time, there are things that I just don't know. People think I know. Oh, Mike knows everything that's going on in the community. I got a secret. I do not, because you see these four walls. I'm in here, and I'm doing my work. Yeah. And somebody might call me or text me, "Hey, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that?" I'm like, "No, I didn't." Oh my God.
Now I did.
I'm not paying attention to the police scanners the way I used to. When I was a newspaper reporter, boy, if I heard about a cop, fire, everything. And I know there are TV reporters, newspaper reporters who are still like that, man. They are on that scanner 24/7, social media, and they run out there. And that's exciting news, man. WBBM, I know they do a lot of great stuff like that. And with me, you kind of transition to a kind of a different role. You're kind of a bird's eye view, and then you swoop in to try to, get in your licks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So. Hey, what might people be surprised to hear about the nature of your job? That, you do your job. Maybe it's exactly what you said. It's Michael knows everything. It's not true.
I think that what would be surprising, I don't think readers or viewers or listeners care much about sometimes the things we have to do to just get you 45 seconds of information.
Yeah.
Right? You think like there are times where, they'll assign me a press conference, like the day of the Derek Chauvin verdict that came in. I was assigned to go to a press conference in Pilsen for the Adam Toledo case. And so you got a group of Latino lawyers who were pushing the Department of Justice to open up an investigation into what happened, civil rights investigation. Well, really, only thing I traveled up there, got ready, showered, and there was no Zoom available. And even if it was, they wanted me to be there. Their Zoom is good to a certain extent, but you're just not there to ask the question. And so I had to pay the toll, I had to put the gas, I had to get on there, get on the highway, get back to the newsroom. I was finally able to visit Navy Pier for the first time in a long time to do my work. But all that for 45 seconds, no web story. Mm-hmm. Maybe I think I tweeted out something. I did something for the network, meaning all of NPR. They mm-hmm. wanted a version of it. So really all of that for less than 2 minutes of what you hear on the radio.
Yeah.
And it's not because, they weren't interested in something more, or maybe they were, maybe they weren't, whatever mm-hmm. It was for 45 seconds, pretty much.
And that was it, right?
And so then you go on to the next, and I don't know if people realize that. They might think, 45 seconds. So how much work can you really put in? Even if let's say, for example, it was a Zoom press conference, but you still have to listen to the entire press conference. Then you got to decipher what is the most important thing that I think listeners should know? What haven't they heard before? And with Zoom, you got to well, this section of the audio came out good. This didn't. Their audio was breaking up. The quality of the audio. Sometimes they're at I cover now the Metro board meetings or the RTA, and sometimes that audio just sounds so terrible. And it's just you got to weigh that of tell your editors, well, he said something, but the audio's bad. And sometimes we can't even use it. So for print, for the Chicago Tribune and stuff, they don't have to worry about that. They put, a lot of times the mayors, places, I'll send you a statement. And I'm like, I'm in radio.
Right.
What am I going to do? Just paraphrase what you said? Why can't these public officials and their PR people tell them, you may want to record something for the radio? I'm not going to worry about the TV folks. They can handle that. But for radio, WBBM, BEZ, there's so many other radio outlets that if we got a minute or two of what this person said, it would be distributed even further out there. I'm not sure why more PR folks aren't telling their handlers, hey, you got this cell phone. Let me record just a minute worth of audio, just a minute. And it may get picked up even more. On the NPR network, you never know. And but those print, they don't have to worry about the sound. We have to worry about the sound. So all those things that we do, and it doesn't matter whether it's for a 30-second story, a minute, maybe 2 minutes, a feature, a lot of work that goes into just providing that every day by all kind of editors, reporters who are working to do that.
Cool. Thank you. Can you think of a moment while you were working where you said to yourself, this is why I do this job?
Oh, man. Man, there are a lot of moments like that. Last year I did this story that really, I'm glad they assigned it to me. There was some, worked with some colleagues on it and had to do with meat processing workers, meat plant workers who were still, a lot of them still are getting COVID-19, but maybe not as the same numbers or risks as they were last year when COVID first started. And, story came out, got a lot of compliments on it, but it's not necessarily you do for the compliments, it's to expose what they are going through. And it takes a lot for somebody, and all these interviews were done over the phone. I mean, I was going to go out there to St. Charles to talk to some of these people who were working with the meat processing people. And it was decided, well, even by the editors, that might be too risky because of COVID. We weren't really sure what was going on. So for people to open up to you and talk to you, they don't know who the other person is on the phone. I could have been with ICE for all they knew.
Yeah.
Or I told them I wouldn't use their name, but I had to know the name. You just can't say, well, can you do the story without telling people their name? Yeah, I can do it under certain circumstances, but I need to know who you are because I need to verify that. I need to, reporters still have to do the verification. And we live in a time where people are very suspect of unidentified sources. But to me, that's that level of trust. I may not know every reporter at the New York Times or the Washington Post, but I do know they come with a certain level of training and education and ethics that if something is done off the record, not off the record, but unidentified, I know it went through a chain to be able to use that piece of information. And we are getting to the point, though, of people not liking that. But I tell you, I'm doing a story now with it's kind of funny that we're dealing with meat processing plant workers who are at the very low on the totem pole, many of them undocumented, very scared to say anything or risk losing their job. Well, I'm now talking to a group of people who are actually very rich, are wealthy compared to you and me,
Hmm.
and they're afraid to use their name in a story that I'm working on that hopefully gets on the air between now and about a month or so. So sometimes it doesn't really matter the economic or the status of somebody. Everybody has something to lose, including the media. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm going to try to have to convince one or two of these people, hey, I got something to lose too, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and the story has much more gravity if you put your name to it. Are you worried about losing something? Yeah, but so am I. Credibility or putting myself at risk or the station at risk. So there are a lot of things that you have to take into consideration. But that story is one of the reasons why I do the things I do to uncover certain things. There are even little stories that, yeah, the big feature is great and everything, but I know most of my stories are going to be 45 seconds, so you got to make it count.
Sounds like you take a lot of satisfaction in bringing in voices that wouldn't be typically heard.
Yeah, because I'm a voice that wouldn't typically be heard. I represent that whole area. I don't.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I have a daughter who wants to become a journalist, but she wants to interview celebrities and stars and everything. And while I do have people that I'm big fans of and would love to interview them, that's not what I would gravitate to. It's the everyday people that have a story to tell. And who else are they going to tell? I mean, I want them to tell me. I want to hear what's happening with them, um, because they rely on us to, maybe they have a problem, and we're there to help try to resolve that or bring attention to something.
Sure. Hey, what do you think about the havoc being wreaked on our industry, the news industry these days?
Well, I think it's terrible. I'm also president of the Indiana Pro SBJ, Society of Professional Journalists. I belong to the Headline Club too in Chicago. Um, we don't realize the impact that it's having. There are so many communities right now that don't have a newspaper anymore. So where are they turning to? They're returning to Twitter and Facebook and innuendos and rumors that are happening. There was an ugly rumor about Mary Lightfoot last week. Terrible rumor. And some media outlets reported that there were rumors on social media. And like, that's not what we do. We're supposed to get away from all that. Away from all that. It's hard to be back on that because it's like, well, let's not do anything on it because it's just a rumor on social media. But that's one of the ways the media fights back on it. If you didn't see coverage of it, that means it was BS.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to stick in someone's mind that this
Right.
was true. Sometimes you do need an outlet. Even today, there was a thing the USA Today did about there was a Facebook posting, probably a meme somewhere, that President Joe Biden violated the law or something because he didn't have a State of the Union address and this particular time, blah, blah, blah. And USA Today came out and said there's no requirement how often he speaks in front of Congress or when. Some people took it at, oh, the media, there he goes, defending President Biden. It's not that. It's to put things in context. It's to give you information. And sometimes you got to do it whether or not people want the information or not. So they put it out there. It was kind of weird that they were responding to something on Facebook, but that's the kind of world we live in now.
Mm-hmm.
And it is terrible that so many journalists, so many talented, award-winning journalists are losing their jobs left and right. Young reporters, older reporters, institutional knowledge that we're losing,
Yeah.
I've been in this business now. I've been at BZ now for 15 years. I'm going on, I think this is like
Your career is over 25 years.
Yeah, 29 years actually.
29. Okay, there you go.
And I view myself as a survivor. I really do. I mean, I'm not sure how I made it this far. Thank God. But I've seen a lot of my colleagues, a lot of friends who have been out of work. And it's not because they're less talented. It's not because of anything of their own doing. It's because people are spending less on newspapers. People are buying less ads for TV news. The glitz and glamour game that we think of it in media, they're struggling too. People, there aren't enough viewers. People are all on social media getting the content for free or in a different way. So we're going to have to figure out a way to, pay for a lot of these services, because then you get what you pay for. If it's free, you get what you pay for, and it may not be coming for the most credible people out there.
Good
and
point.
We have to have more than just opinion. We have so much opinion out there. So many things that people are mistaking reporting for opinion. I'm going to straight up say I'm not the biggest Fox News fan. However, when they allow their reporters to do straight up reporting, it's not bad. And it may be a little bit, maybe to the right a little bit, or maybe not the way I would do it. But you need that. I think right now might be the best time to watch Fox News, because now they're doing what they're supposed to do, is holding the people in power accountable. Where the last administration was in there, they were doing the total opposite. So, hey, if you're not mature enough or an adult enough to be able to take bad news about your favorite politician, you need to grow up. That's what our role is to hold the people in power accountable. That's what we're supposed to do, whether it's Biden, Trump, or the mayor in your city, the small towns, your alderman. That's what we're supposed to do. And we're all, I've told some people that our job is made much harder now than under Trump. And some reporters may disagree with that, but I think it's much harder now because we are now having to hold an administration accountable that people who may view themselves as more liberal tend to support. And reporters tend to be more liberal, but not in a political sense, that we have to see things from a non-judgmental type view. But when we start doing more critical stories on the administration or Democrats, we can be viewed as as the enemy now. So we're always pissing off somebody.
Right.
That's our job.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Can I say that?
Yes, you can. If you're not pissing someone off, are you doing your job? It's a good question. Hey,
I don't think you are doing your job if you're not pissing somebody off.
Yeah.
People in power. I mean, let's face it. Chicago has been a Democratic-run city for decades, and they haven't had the best relationship with the press. And the press is supposed to be liberal.
Right.
And if we were that liberal, we would be in bed with a lot of these people. We're not.
Yeah.
We tend not to be. But we got to hold these people accountable. And if readers or viewers have issues with that, well, then that's on them. My father would always say, and he said this when I grew up in East Chicago, Indiana, right across the state line. I've worked for a long time for the Post-Tribune of Northwest Indiana. It was actually based in Gary, and towards the end of my tenure at the Post-Tribune, I was covering my hometown, the city of East Chicago, which there was a lot of corruption. There was a big scandal over the millions spent public money on sidewalks for people's private homes and everything. It was a really big scandal. And some of the people I was writing about were people my father knew. My father, Jesus Puente, and he knew these players. He grew up with them. They were friends of his. And I go, Dad, isn't this going to put you in the crosshairs with some of your friends? And he would say, Mike, if you're telling the truth, they shouldn't be angry. And I've always held that with me. So no many other people get angry with my reporting. I think of my dad. He was the greatest journalism teacher I ever had.
Fantastic. That dovetails into my next question. I went on Facebook and asked some people what questions I had, and my aunt Janice wants to know, who do you admire most?
Well, of course, I admire my parents. But I'm not just because they were my parents. They really, I feel, they brought me up right, and I felt like I grew up in a city, despite its history with public corruption, a blue collar industrial city with really, really good people. When we think of Indiana, and I tend to think this at WBEZ sometimes, they think of, well, red Indiana. Indiana can be a very red state. But I grew up in a very democratic town. If you cross the state line, I think you would have a hard time knowing when you left Chicago, because Hammond looks so much like the Southeast Side, Whiting, and East Chicago, very industrial, right? But a lot of African Americans, a lot of Hispanics, a lot of Europeans, Slovaks, Polish, German. So, I just grew up in a city that respected each other, that the only thing we didn't have a lot of were Asian Americans. That's about it. That's the only thing we kind of lacked in East Chicago. Everything else, we just really respected each other. And I think that's helped me in my work now. There are a lot of people I admire, so many people, a lot of colleagues of mine, former colleagues in the newspaper industry, media, and even, the one thing about WBEZ, and not just trying to tout that now, my station, but we got so many young, aggressive reporters that I learned from them. We always kind of hope we get to a point where people are looking up to us and how you do things. That's fine, but some of these young reporters that are coming up, Maria Zamudio, Adriana Cardona Magiga, these are like, I'm learning from them every day. New things, new ways. And, you just try to get, there's so many people I admire. So I know I kind of got off the rails on that. Of course, my cousin Teresa Gutierrez, we grew up together. I always wanted to be like her in so many ways, journalism ways. I admired her. She was one of my early mentors. But there are others out there that have played a role in who I am today.
So I understand you said at one time you were thinking about being an actor, but I understand that you still have an acting bug, and you scratch that itch through community theater.
Right.
And Heather Oliver wants to know what your favorite role is so far.
Well, I would act a little bit with the Crown Point Community Theater, because it was kind of funny. Our bureau was in Crown Point, and one year they said, "Hey, why don't you be in a production with us?" So ever since then, I try to do things, and I'm also part of something I kind of established in Indiana called it's the What the Hey comedy troupe. So it's with people that have started with the Crown Point Community Theater. So we put on these kind of more comedic type programs. Now with COVID, we've had to cancel a couple of things, but we'll get back on doing it. But one of the earlier roles that I've had was playing Sergeant Julian Durgo in An Anatomy for a Murder. And it was playing a cop, and was being on the witness stand. We had the production in the old Lake County Courthouse in Crown Point, Indiana. There's this glorious old historic courthouse in an actual courtroom setting. I mean, It's actually used for court proceedings now. It was the very courtroom where John Dillinger was at when he was brought to Indiana and was put into Lake County Jail, Crown Point, right in downtown Crown Point. He was there, and they've had some historic trials in there. So we had it in an actual court setting. So yeah, Sergeant Julian Durgo, I got on the witness stand, and it was kind of helpful that I was a cop, because they would say, even on the witness stand, you can read from your notes. So I had my line. But I know as an actor, you have to know your lines. You can't cheat your way because just like in radio, and this was a lesson for people who are thinking of going from print to radio or even TV. TV is another animal, but for at least for radio, the great Kay Cahan, one of my early editors at WBEZ, would say, well, Mike, not that you're coming from print, it's not enough just to report the story or write the story. Now you got to perform the story. So as an actor, you got to know your lines because you got to act them. You got to become this person. There's no, waiting on like, oh, what's that line? You've got to almost become this person. So acting helps my reporting and reporting helps my acting.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Neat.
Not that I'm acting sad when I'm doing a story that is supposed to be sad,
right.
but in the actual delivering of the lines, your pacing, how you sound, all that, I have a music background too. So a lot of that too has helped me in when I'm reading from scripts and stuff like that. Absolutely.
And to take another turn, your colleague, Cheryl Rice Stout, said, ask him about his passion for the White Sox. And I, why the White Sox? I grew up with the Cubs. I like them both, but, why the White Sox?
It's funny because growing up, I would go to more Cubs games. My dad would take me to see the Cubs. In fact, I think I celebrated my 12th birthday at Wrigley Field on a hot August 12th. I don't know, 1980 or whatever, late 70s, under the scoreboard in a doubleheader. Dave Kingman hit one of the home runs, I remember. But because I remember even as late as 1984, at 83, the White Sox got into the playoffs. And in 84, I was in high school already. I was happy for the Cubs making the playoffs. So, but between 84 and 89, I just started gravitating more towards the White Sox. I will say this, as a youngster, of course, going to more Wrigley Field games, my first Chicago White Sox game was like in 1977. A neighbor of mine took me, and it was a night game. Now, previously, all the Cubs games that I went to, I think most of them they lost, except for that one Dave Kingman one. But then when I was walking up to Comiskey Park, it was a night game. It just seemed bigger. The lights were on. I remember It's a Small World was playing on the organ. Nancy Faust was playing it. And I was walking up the steps, I think out from the outfield, and it just seemed like, whoa, it just seemed bigger. And they always won when I went, So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the cheap tickets, being so close to my home. I don't know what it is. I just gravitate to be more of a White Sox fan. But I root for the Cubs here and there. And I was kind of happy that they won the World Series. I was alive for that. Sox did it way earlier than they did. So I think it would be great if both teams were in the World Series one year, and maybe it'll happen one day.
I think Chicago would explode.
Oh my God. I think it's great that the city has two teams, and I don't limit my kids from rooting from whoever they want. My daughter's Jessica was kind of growing up more of a Cub fan. I don't know why. I would always say, well, maybe because she liked the colors more. I don't know. But she just kind of liked them. I think now she's saying she's gravitating more towards the Sox, but hey, whatever you want to do is fine by me.
Another colleague of yours, Jorge Lara, said we should ask you about the first time you saw Michael Jordan play and where that took place.
Wow. Yeah. Michael Jordan, I don't know if a lot of people know about this. He played one of his first games. I think it was his second game as a Chicago Bull, technically, but his first game in the Chicagoland area at my old high school, East Chicago, Washington. This is back in the days where the Bulls would routinely play at high school or college gymnasiums to draw up excitement for the team. And so in 1984, shortly after the Michael Jordan played for the gold team for the Olympics, he joined the Chicago Bulls. And the week they were supposed to play at my old high school gym. Now my gym wasn't a small Cracker Jack box gym. It could hold 6,000 people because basketball in Indiana is big, and it's always big at East Chicago, Washington. So it was supposed to be a game between the Chicago Bulls and the Milwaukee Bucks. It was also supposed to be a welcome home game for Junior Bridgman, who was on the Milwaukee Bucks and was a graduate of East Chicago, Washington. That week, Junior Bridgman was traded to the Los Angeles Clippers. So they were saying, should we still have this game? And they're like, yeah, I still have the game. They still have Michael Jordan. Absolutely. So yeah, Michael Jordan played one of his first games in my high school gym. It was huge.
Cool.
And now Junior Bridgman, it was kind of funny. He's now the owner of Ebony Jet magazine because he's become one of the most successful ex-athletes of all time. And I think he has the second most amount of money ever after Michael Jordan, which is odd. And also in that gymnasium that day was another friend of mine who graduated from that same high school in 1985, Kenny Lofton, who went on to play with the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs and the White Sox. But I grew up with Kenny, a friend of mine, good friend of my brother's actually. And so, yeah, Michael Jordan, my home high school.
Cool. Cool. Hey, thanks for talking to us. Thanks for talking to me. Is there anything else we should talk about? Any shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, I'll drop some names a little bit here because you asked me about mentors. And I will say this, growing up as a newspaper reporter, I got to work alongside a lot of great reporters who maybe in Chicago, their names aren't that big, but in Northwest Indiana, I think people would recognize their names. Growing up, I worked alongside people like a Bill Dolan, Rich James. They were both at the Post-Tribune for a long time. Now, Bill Dolan is an older reporter now working for the Times of Northwest Indiana. But at one time he worked with the Post-Tribune, and I kind of sat in the same office next to both of them. Rich James, considered at one time the sort of the how can I say this, the biggest political reporter in Indiana. So got to learn from them. Joe Kahn, Mark Taylor, really big names in Northwest Indiana journalism. I actually got my start as a reporter covering things in Illinois for the Daily Southtown. That was the first time I ever wrote for things, covering Calumet City, Dalton, the south suburbs. Then went out to work for the Northwest Indiana Times, but still covering the south suburbs. It was kind of weird. Then I got to the Post-Tribune. Man, I mean, so many people, Kay Cahan, my colleagues at the WBEZ, Linda Ludden, such a great friend of mine. This business can kind of drag you down sometimes where you don't know how much of an impact your work is having. And she's always there to uplift me. Natalie Moore, I mentioned Maria Zamudio before. Monica Ng, oh my God, Monica Ng, such a great friend. Chip Mitchell.
And a lot of those are Turkle winners too.
Right. And Odette Youssef, so many people that I know people listen to, but they're friends of mine and they do offer advice a lot of times. God, I just don't want to. Manuel Martinez, who's our photographer at WBEZ, who doesn't come on the air really, but has taken outstanding photo. Is a photojournalist. Is another one. Greg Ladd was a former professor of mine at Calumet College of St. Joseph, who made a name for himself a little bit in the film industry. I owed a debt of gratitude to. I know I'm going to forget here and there, but there have been so many people that have come in, have been a part of my journalism life. Steve Zalewski, who continues to be a reporter for the Daily Herald, Sue Termott, Michelle Quinn at the Post-Tribune, even Steve Patterson. We've always had a kind of a love-hate relationship with each other, but I've learned some things from him. Also, Mike Gonzalez, good friend of mine, and just so many people out there. And I got to send a shout out to my family, my wife Grisela, my kids Stephanie and Jessica. They've always been there for me, and couldn't do my work without them. And so just yeah, it's been in many ways I feel like my career has just started. As weird as it sounds, I feel like I've gotten way further than I ever thought I would. And sometimes I feel like I haven't gotten anywhere where I thought I would. It's just one of those things. So, but it's been, I've enjoyed being a reporter, and I still do. And I'm still learning a lot of things from a lot of reporters out there, young or veteran.
Right.
There isn't a day that goes by that I don't learn something new. And you, Karen, thank you so much for having an interest in interviewing me. I don't think I'm the most interesting person in the world.
You are the most
I don't have a voice.
self-deprecating.
I don't like the, I don't have the voice like a Dan Mihalopoulos, who thought he would have such a great Chicago accent. They always talk about his accent. Great journalist, great friend too. God, I'm sure I'm leaving out some people, but it's been a fun time. My favorite editors too. Diane Hayes at the Post Tribune, and Annie Russell. Annie Russell is a comedian too. Had a short stint at WBEZ. Is now living on the West Coast. Man, just there are editors that come into your life who allow you to be the best you can be. And I won Best Reporter in both states when she was my editor. So I got to give a shout out to her too. So
Cool.
Beyond. Also got to mention my friend Jorge Lara, who's always believed in me. Works at Telemundo. We grew up together, and he's always believed in me in times I didn't. Other people who have played very important roles in my life. Myrna Maldonado, who was on one of my first radio shows at WJOB called Latin Lingo. Nelda Rivera, a big supporter of mine. Couldn't do it without her or their support. And my brothers, and my brother Tony and Jesse, and my sister Liz, and all my nieces and nephews, just love them. We come from a very tight-knit family, and without the family being there, it would be really hard to do what I do. And one of the reasons I love doing what I do is because I have a built-in fan base. So have I gone to another part of the country? Maybe not so, but the fact that I'm here, I need that fan. I in my mind, I can hear that cheering section, and I do. So there you go. Oh,
Wow.
man. People
Thanks for
out
all
there.
that. Thanks for all that. And thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks again for being media curious. If you'd like to get in touch with me or with
Michael Puente.
here's our contact information. It's also in the info box below. Special shout out now to media curious collaborators. The oh so talented Jane Ricciardi does post-production work on each episode. The Kimtastic word nerd Kim O'Brien edits all the notes that go with each episode. Can TV cablecasts each episode periodically on Channel 27. And the Event Tours and ChicagoPublicSquare.com help talk up the series. If you like what we're doing here, please comment, like, subscribe, or share. If you'd like to be a sponsor, let's talk soon.
Thank you, Michael.
That's it. Watch me call you tonight. Can I add one more name?
Good morning.
Please.